I'm hitting the record button. And but anyway, this will be kind of a fun thing to start the show out with. Good morning, everybody. We're live here with my brother, the Votinator, Mr. Ian Rude, coming in from Bentonville, Arkansas. Looks like you're hanging out there in your little abode there, right?
Yeah, it's Christmas, dude.
Yeah, you gotta love it, baby. I love it. See your Christmas tree behind you. The stockings hanging on the fireplace with care.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I fell asleep last night trying to watch a Star Wars movie, and I woke up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I had a pretty severe sore throat. I was like, whoa, this is no good. And so I went into Kong and I ran myself. I ended up doing my usual thing. I guzzled down 28 ounces of 11.5. And then at the same time, while I was running that 11.5, I collected a glass of 2.5, which I always do as well, because I always gargle with it and brush my teeth with it before I go to bed. So anyway, what I did, I felt this sore throat coming on, and it was already on. It wasn't coming on. It was like I swallowed, and you know how that is when you got a sore throat and you swallow and it hurts. And so what I did is I took like 3 little mouthfuls at a time, one little mouthful, and I'd gargle with it, and I was like gargling like this and trying to let it get as far down into my throat as I could, but also keeping it up, almost to the point where it almost made me upchuck a couple times. I basically did it till it made me spit it out, So I did that. I did that twice for a good like 30 seconds each time. And then I did it a third time for about another 30 seconds. And then I like really slowly swallowed it down. And I went in and went to bed. And that was at probably about 1:30 this morning. And then I woke up at like 5, and that sore throat was pretty much gone. It's gone now. I still have a little bit of a sniffle going on here, but my sore throat's gone. Just like that.
I love it.
All I did was gargle with some 2.5. So now today I'm gonna drink a whole bunch of 11.5 today, and that ought to whoop the sniffle I got going on and sneezing.
Yeah, dude.
Anyway, yeah, buddy, it's so good to see you. I love having you on the show because you're just such a wealth of information, and I really I'm so grateful for all the posts you've been putting up as of late. You've been putting up a lot of really important stuff that should very well help us wake up a lot of people, because ultimately that's what our deal is we gotta get people to wake up. People don't realize the sheer evil that surrounds them. And I love the fact that you're doing such a great job to help expose it so that people can see what's going on. And because if they don't know, what are they going to do about it? And so not only with us here in the Kong family can we expose this kind of stuff, but we also have a solution. And you put out that post yesterday about the EMF radiation, which is basically our cell phones and the stuff that's being emitted by these so-called smart meters.
Mm-hmm.
And when I saw that post, I was like, I want to try and make that a topic for today's show, because at that time I didn't have a guest, and so I reached out and said I'm going to make that the subject. And you go, hey, I think I'll be free. I'm like, sweet, double bonus. You to explain it. And so I don't know if you would be interested or not, but what I'd really love to have you do, if you could, would be to share your screen and then bring that article up and kind of talk about it. Let's give a little bit of information to the audience about what is actually happening here, and how is it that Kong and Water, because I know Sam Trans said the same kind of thing. He said the important thing is to continue to add electrons. And, you know, if we've got a surplus of negatively charged electrons in our body, then our body has a much better chance of being able to defend itself. And what I'm hoping that maybe you can kind of expand on a little bit here today is how and why. What is it? What's the deal? Why does it matter? Why is Cog so important in this equation?
Absolutely.
Does that sound like something fun to do this morning?
That sounds like something fun to do. So I guess a good place to start would be actually a little bit of background on me and what I used to do and kind of why I understand this stuff the way that I do. So I will share my screen with you here. And before I do that, let me get my Facebook pulled up and we'll go to the post that you had in question, and then we can go ahead and go to that article and we can build on that from there. Can you hear me okay, JJ?
Absolutely, yep. Loud and clear. Even Helen can hear you.
Cool. All right, buddy. So you're on my screen.
Yep. Perfect.
And here's the post. So I got accused of being a conspiracy theorist today. Said joke's on him. You had actually commented on that post, and it was on a different post. We were talking about EMF radiation, specifically from cell phones, and how EMF radiation can contribute to the overproduction of reactive oxygen species in the body, which, as we know, leads to an increase in inflammation, leads to oxidation, and overall leads to cell damage. We see the same thing with people who eat too much sugar and they get diabetes. The diabetes usually comes from the altering of the metabolism of a gene, which comes back to cell voltage. And I'm going to explain that today. I've got a short PowerPoint presentation that we're going to go through. But in this specific article, there's something that I want to go ahead and draw your attention to. All right, so we can see the article is on electromagnetic fields, oxidative stress, and neurodegeneration. Again, with conversations that we've had, JJ, if we understand that we're an electrical machine, you know, you're a walking saltwater fishbowl with a pH of 7.365 to 7.45, as some of our good doctors like to say in the group. Electromagnetic fields exist all around us. And the post that I was referring to whenever the tinfoil hat wearing guy, you know, because you commented on that and you said, what can we do to protect ourselves? Well, what we were actually discussing was the fact that DNA, human DNA, is it's an antenna, a refractory antenna in electromagnetic fields. And you and I have had this conversation before. Not only do I work with the nervous system, but I'm also a minister. I'm a huge believer in divine creation. And I believe that if we lay the Bible and we lay our science books out side by side with the progressions that have now come along in quantum theory and quantum physics and the discovery of the Higgs boson particle and just how energy and matter and everything interact unanimously. I'm going to have slides in here that talk about cellular respiration, and we've got different kinds of cellular respiration, but every living thing on the planet interacts in a similar manner. And so I'll have to explain to you what's what.
Sounds good. I love it. I'm totally into learning this kind of stuff, and I think that our audience will love it too. We're getting a bunch of loves and likes flying up the screen right now as we speak. So
I understand that everybody's still on my screen and they can see us up here in the corner, but I wanted to point out a few things. All right, EMF-driven oxidative stress is still in progress. That can lead to a whole host of neurodegenerative disorders. This is something that's huge on my plate because we work specifically with oxidation and neurodegenerative stress in the clinic. We believe that stress is actually one of the main precursors to the body breaking down. And so whenever you look at an article like this, interactions of EMFs with biological systems, you can see that electromagnetic fields are non-ionizing. And so we generally say that non-ionizing radiation is safe because it's not ionizing. But we have to understand that our bodies are very, very sensitive to these kinds of things. And so specifically this paragraph right here, okay? Metabolic processes which generate oxidants and antioxidants can be influenced by environmental factors such as electromagnetic frequencies. Increased EMF exposure can modify cellular balance in generating reactive oxygen species. Physical processes at an atomic level are indeed the basis of reactions between biomolecules and EMFs, as the field can magnetically affect chemical bonds between adjacent atoms and alter the energy levels and spin orientation of electrons. That is hugely important, and I'll expand on it in a minute. Overproduction of reactive oxygen species can damage cellular components, mainly lipids and membranes and nucleic acids. Moreover, ROS can harm cells by depleting enzymatic or non-enzymatic antioxidants, triggering progressive dysfunction and eventually genotoxic events. So if we really break that down, what it's saying is that you've got a process which you're generating cell energy, and that process involves oxidation. Molecules can be oxidized or they can reduce. We're going to talk about free radicals. If a cell is oxidized and it's left with an overall positive charge, the cell is damaged, it loses its resting potential, then it becomes a reactive molecule, okay? So you have oxidative stress that turns it into a damaging free radical. And then that free radical is missing an electron. It has an unpaired electron, which makes it angry, and it starts going out and replicating with other cells in an unhealthy manner because it can't get that charge back, okay? And it's similar to what I used to do. I taught people about how the heart beats. And so proper heartbeat, you're supposed to have an impulse that's generated up here at the SA node, what we call the sinoatrial node. And that travels down through the right atrium and it goes down to the AV node, the atrioventricular node, goes through the bundle of His, down to the Purkinje fibers and beats out through the ventricles from the left and right bundle. So you can have different things that occur on an EKG, because if we're looking at EKG graph paper, we're basically reading the electrical activity of the heart. This is your atrial contraction over here. So it's actually whenever the atria contracts, it depolarizes. And so you've got these little, just imagine these little minus signs and plus signs all through here. And the heartbeat is cell voltage. And the heart generates its own heartbeat. It has automaticity because the heart is a generator. And the brain is a computer. And the heart sends electrical impulses to the brain, and the brain sends electrical impulses to the heart. And these electrical impulses go to the muscles and the digestive tract and everywhere throughout the body. That is an electrical process. And there can be issues within that process. So,
fascinating.
Let's talk real quick. What is cellular respiration? It's the process in which organisms take molecules broken down from food and release the chemical energy stored in chemical bonds of those molecules. And it's important to remember that food is not the direct source of energy. Food does carry energy because everything carries an electrical charge. So we've talked about that on the oxidation scale, ORP, right? We have oxidation reduction potential. And so you'll have like living water, which has a negative charge. You've got tap water, which has a positive charge. Vitamin C has an overall negative charge, right? And so that's why we say that a glass of Kangen water has more antioxidant potential than a pound of blueberries. So what you really need to know is that the energy comes from ATP, all right? And your body makes ATP. It's a molecule called adenosine triphosphate. When we talk about the heartbeat, ATP is right in there. So on the cellular level, your body is constantly taking sugar and oxygen and these different molecules, and it's combining them to make energy molecules. So it's your internal combustion engine. And if we were really going to go into this today, which we're not, because we don't have time, you've got glycolysis, which is basically sugar respiration. And this breaks down kind of how that goes through to oxidative phosphorylation, everything that you don't really care about today. What we do care about is that this is an antioxidant, this is a free radical, and this is a healthy cell. And that is as simple as I possibly make this to help people get just the basic visual. If I talk about oxidation, I want you to picture, oxidative stress. This free radical is trying to grab this electron from this healthy cell, okay? And your antioxidant, your hydrogen molecule, is going to give an electron to that free radical.
That's classic.
Free radicals are just unstable atoms. And to become more stable, they take electrons from other atoms. It can cause increased aging and signs of dis-ease in the body because you have an abnormal cellular respiration. That's all it is. Okay? Now, we can get really, really complex with this. And this is a diagram that's specifically talking about NRF2 activation. There's actually another supplement that I won't name right now that I've been doing research on because of the way that it can activate this protein and affect the oxidative stress process. So Kangen water is not the end-all, be-all, but it's an amazing supplement. And if we really pay attention to this process of oxidative stress, this process of oxidation and reduction, the process of the pH scale and how that interacts bioelectrically throughout our body, then we can really start to affect some serious change. So, and we're just going to go over some terms here. So again, we talked about ATP synthesis. We talked about how energy is released from chemical bonds during cellular respiration. It's stored in molecules of adenosine triphosphate, and then adenosine triphosphate breaks down into adenosine biphosphate, and then you have byproducts. And from there, you can go into aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration. So that just means whether or not you have oxygen in the process. And if you're making energy without oxygen, then you're going to get more bio waste that builds up in the cells, and you can produce lactic acid and end up with burning muscles and different things like that. Now, that process can lead to a breakdown in tissue. And so whenever we're working with athletes, we're always trying to supplement for healthy cellular respiration. We're always trying to make sure that they drink lots of water so that they can be properly hydrated. They can flush those toxins out of their muscles. They can oxygenate their cells so that they have more energy to burn when they're working out, which is why when people start drinking this water, they go, man, I got so much more energy, right? So what types of molecules are broken down in cellular respiration? You take energy from foods, okay, and it's broken down and processed in the body, and those specific molecules in the food are coded to different receptor sites or energy centers in the body. And those energy centers, your body's polarized, your nervous system has positive and negative charges, and you actually have an energy field around you that can be photographed with a Kirlian camera. Overall, cellular respiration is a process that is aerobic with oxygen. Okay. Some steps within the process of cellular respiration don't require oxygen. And cellular respiration represents many steps that have taken place. We're not going to go over all of those today. But what I want you to know is that it takes place inside the cell, specifically the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. And so whenever we talk about cellular energy, the mitochondria is like the little generator inside the cell that all this is taking place in. And cellular respiration is broken down into these major steps. You have glycolysis, which is sugar respiration, and that's without oxygen. You have the Krebs cycle, which is with oxygen. And you have the electron transport chain, which is with oxygen. Okay. Mitochondria, again, is the power plant. And I threw this in here because I want you guys to research telomeres. It's a compound structure at the end of a chromosome. Okay, chromosome, strand of DNA, right? And so each time a cell divides, it loses a little bit of its telomeres. And I want you to just, I'm not going to explain it today, but I want you to look at this and how it interacts with the inflammatory process in the body. And I want you to think about somebody who eats a whole lot of sugar. So overall, basically what we're looking at, and this is again broken down into incredibly simple terms, and it doesn't matter if we're talking about soda pop or we're talking about EMF radiation, we're talking about the same basic process. You have mitochondrial stressors, which affect the overall cell voltage. The length of the telomeres is shortened. Normal cells turn into inflamed cells. The body activates an immune system response to try and correct damage that's happening there. And then you have basically a process which takes place where the body tries to kill off certain cells, and then certain cells replicate in a way that they're not supposed to, and things just get really unhealthy in the body. That process comes back to positive and negative charges. It comes back to pH. Let's see. So we can go into this a little bit further because I used a couple of terms. I used enzymatic and non-enzymatic. And so a lot of people have heard of CoQ10 and glutathione and different supplements that they can take. Endogenous just means within the body, produced within the body. Exogenous means produced with or outside of the body, so your exogenous antioxidants are going to be like your Kangen water, your salmon, things that are high in omega-3s. Again, you can take this same process of deductive reasoning and you can look specifically at omega-3 and omega-6 ratios within the body and see where you want those to be and where those are at in most people's diets. And through deductive reasoning, you can see the process that's happening here, and you don't have to be a nutrition to draw those conclusions from PubMed. So you have environmental stress, perception increases reactive oxidative species, right? You can see over here, you remember from 6th grade biology, this is the process that's going on in plants. A little bit different, but there's a lot of similarities. And so you can have defense responses that trigger enhanced sustainability. You can also have defense responses that trigger cell death. Oxidative stress. Okay. So this article is talking about elevated intracellular levels of reactive oxygen species that cause damage to lipids, proteins, DNA structures. And it talks about how reactive oxidative stress has been linked to a bunch of physiological functions. So I hyperlink to that so that we can expand on it if we want to, but the basic premise here is this is a bad thing, right? And we've talked about this process. It's a relatively simple process, and it happens ubiquitously throughout creation. Metabolite detection. And so this is a testing process where you actually look for different proteins within cells. And glycolysis can be monitored using a live cell analysis by measuring glucose uptake consumption. All right. Why did I put this in here? Because it's used to study alterations in immune cell metabolism. And we know that tumor cells that are replicating abnormally have an affinity for sugar. And I've never understood why whenever you've got people who are taking care of cancer patients, doctors are telling them to go and take Ensure to get their nutrients. And you look at the sugar count and Ensure, if they're drinking that 2-3 times a day, I mean, can't be good, but I'm not the guy to make those decisions. So that's just my 2 cents. Another study, molecular hydrogen is a novel antioxidant to effectively reduce oxidative stress with the potential for improvement of mitochondrial diseases. Now, this is an article that's on Science Direct. This can be found on pubmed.gov, and you guys can read more on this. I'm not going to go into it, but you need to know that the information is there, that you can pull the articles, and the research has been done. That statement, would you say that molecular hydrogen is something that you want in your life or no?
Absolutely. I know I love having it in my life. You know, I want to ask a question or, you know, once we're finished with this, maybe we can go back to it, but you were talking about the triggering of the cell death and how this process makes the cells go crazy and become abnormal and that kind of stuff. And it makes me think of that video that I think it was either you that shared it out or Sam that shared it out, where they were testing people's blood before they like took 3 different people, took their blood, and then looked at their blood under the microscope. And you could see all the blood cells were round. They were all the same shape. They were all kind of moving around and that kind of stuff. And then they had these people literally go stand next to a so-called smart meter for 2 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then they went back and took another sample of their blood, and you can literally see all these deranged blood cells that are, mm-hmm. you know, instead of all of them moving around and all being the same shape, there were so many of them in there that are just all discombobulated and you know, what I was hoping is maybe we might, because I think what you were just describing there is exactly what you're seeing there in that little blood sample thing. And so I thought that was just absolutely fascinating, seeing those things all warped like that just from standing next to a EMF, you know, one of these smart meters for just a couple of minutes.
Well, and why do I say that this stuff is interchangeable? I mean, there's a lot of scientists, or there's a lot of professionals in the health and wellness field that would say, oh, he just drew a contrast between, you know, plant cell respiration and human cell respiration. Well, yeah, go and stick a plant next to your wireless router. See how it behaves.
That's an interesting thing too, because we've got a big stand of plants upstairs right where our router is.
Take them away from the router.
Yeah, that's I'm going to have to consider doing that. I'm not sure where we would put them, but I'm going to have to talk to the wives about that. See if they want to they want to move them just as an experiment.
Yep.
And, or at least just move a couple of them. Take a look at the ones that are closest and maybe move them a little ways away and see what happens to them. That might be a real interesting experiment. In fact, probably should look at the ones they're close and see if they're, you know, which ones are in the worst shape or whatever, and take them and move them over to the other side of the room or over to a different spot and see what happens. That would be, and take some before and after pictures.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's I'm looking forward to having you, because when we were talking last night, you were saying that come here after the first of the year that we might be able to get together once a week and do some learning. And because quite frankly, I'd really love to help push and support what you're doing, because I think what you're doing is super important. I know there's a lot of people out there who need what you have, and I believe I'm one of them, in regards to being able to regenerate things. And I'd just love to be able to expand as much as possible on it so people can understand what you're doing and then be able to, utilize your services. And, hopefully that can help build your business and help help not only build your nuclear business, but also your Kangen water business. And, because that's what this is all about. We're in the process of changing the world. And, people like you are instrumental in that. And, one thing I was thinking might be kind of fun right here, because I don't know who all has seen that video, but I'm wondering if you could, if you by chance have that video. The reason I'm asking you to share your screen is because it's easier to get it into the recording if you're the one sharing versus me sharing. And I could probably pretty easily find that video and send you the link, or just get the link over to you, because I think it's only just like a 5-minute video, and I think it would be really neat to be able to play that video and show everybody what's taking place there. And while that's taking place, maybe you could expand on exactly what they're seeing right there, if you have that ability. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and if you want to send me the link, I'm not seeing it here on the top of my feed.
Let me go to my YouTube channel.
It's really interesting though, because they've done some of these videos on people who wake up in the morning and they drink coffee versus Kangen water, and of course coffee's acidic, and it can actually, even though coffee's supposed to be rich in antioxidants that we get from the store, isn't great. Bless you. And so individuals who wake up and drink Kangen water, and they test their blood under the microscope, I know those videos are out there too, and the cells are just, blood vessels are popping around there.
Yeah, I know Sebastian Restrepo did several of those videos where he drank coffee, then he drank Dasani, and then he drank Kangen water. And he also did another one that I thought was kind of funny the other day. He did one where he smoked a big old marijuana stogie, and he tested his blood beforehand, and then he sat there and smoked a great big old reefer, and then after he did that, he tested his blood, and you could clearly see how it gummed up his blood. It gummed it up, it slowed it down. All of his blood cells were kind of moving around and such. And then afterwards, they were kind of clumped together and stopped moving as well. And my thing to him, when I commented on it, I told him, you should, next time you do that, or you should do it again, and then try to be drinking a bunch of Kangen water while you're smoking. And so you're drinking, every time you take a puff, drink some water, take a puff, drink some water, and see what the difference is. See if the water manages to make a difference. And somehow I have a feeling that it would probably make a great difference. And, with that, but that's one of the things that's really neat. He bought that microscope so that he could look at that kind of stuff. And, he did the one where he drank coffee, then drank coffee, waited 10 minutes, did his blood. Then he drank Dasani, waited 10 minutes and drank his blood, tested his blood. And then he did the same thing with Kangen water. And people came back and in their, you know, the naysayers, whatever, the skeptics said, yeah, well, you know, the coffee helped and the Dasani helped get things moving. And then Kangen water just kind of took advantage of it because it was the third one getting drank. And I told him, well, you know what you should do to deal with that and those people is get up one morning and drink coffee and test your blood. And then the following day, get up and drink Dasani and test your blood. And then the following day, get up and drink Kong's water and test your blood, and do them all three on separate days. And okay, here it is right here. Oh, it looks like it is a little bit longer, but what the heck, you know, I know I'm not in any hurry. I don't know if you are, but this is actually 14 minutes long, but I'm going to bring it up here and then I'll go over and message it to you, and then you can bring it up on your screen, and we'll be able to record it along with this whole thing. So I'm going to grab the link here, and then I'm going to go to Facebook. But this stuff is all so fascinating to me. I am just so amazed at it all. I have learned, you know, this, when I talk to people all the time about how Kangen water, you know, their motto of change your water, change your life, and how much it actually does change your life. It changes your life in so many different ways, you know, not just in making you a little, you know, helping you get more healthy, but, you know, the people that you get surrounded with, the information that you get on a daily basis, you know, it's all just been so incredibly life-changing for me, just because of running into people like you, people like Sam Tran, people like Dan Edlund, you know, just people that just add such an incredible value to your life, by the way they do things, by the things that they know, that they teach you. Because that's one thing I've found out about members of the Kong family. They're generally more than happy to share what they know. And that's been just such an incredible blessing. It's you know, just been so unique learning the things about, you know, how our body is literally an electrical machine. I had some sort of a semblance of understanding, but not really that much. And since getting involved with Kangen water, I've learned just so much interesting stuff in that regard that it's just, to me, it's just fascinating as all get out. And I think that people will, you know, as people start to understand it, it's gonna really, you know, help change people's lives for the better. And I apologize, my internet is running really slow this morning, I guess with being streaming, and it's taking quite a while for these things to load up.
All right.
I pay a good chunk of money every month for good fast internet speed too. I need to get a hold of Comcast and let them know that I need them to speed up the results, baby, because this reminds me back of the old dial-up days.
That's actually kind of funny given the conversation that we're having today.
Yeah.
The detrimental effects of 5G. But our internet's slow.
Here we are sitting here talking about the very thing that we're utilizing to have this conversation.
Yeah. Well, people aren't going to stop eating cookies either. They just need to figure out how to protect themselves from the cookies.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about this whole thing is because, you know, this stuff isn't going away. It's like 5G isn't going to get stopped. I don't think. I'm guessing that it's going to continue on its path. And the only thing we can do is figure out how to protect ourselves against it. And, you know, that's where all this comes in. And and makes it all possible. So, I mean, I understand that Kong's water is not the only thing that we need to do to be able to protect ourselves, but it is 75% of the equation. And, you know, what I tell people all the time, and I wonder if I'm being accurate with this, I think I am, and maybe you could correct me if I'm not, but I pretty much tell people that when it comes to the health equation, water is 75% of the equation. And then the other 25% is your diet, your exercise, your environment, and your mindset. And maybe those are not even in the right order. Maybe the mindset's the most important part of those four, but still those four make up the other 25%, and the water that you're drinking makes up the other 75%. And so it seems to me that it's pretty logical that water's the most important thing. Am I full of it?
No, and actually I've got a couple of links pulled up here. I'll go ahead and share my screen, because we basically, what we tell people, and everybody always tells me that when I give my spiel, nobody understands what I do. Everybody wants me to put a nice little label on the package with a nice little bow. But I've got to be careful what I say to people and how I describe what it is that I actually do. Because if you say that you're doing something in a certain way, it opens you up to a whole world of problems if you're not careful.
Yeah.
So what I tell people is that we use direct current electricity to reprogram the nervous system. We remove the governors that prevent your body from being able to heal itself.
I love it. It's fascinating. I'll tell you what, it is fascinating as all get out, brother. I love it.
Well, I've got a couple articles. I might go to that video, but just so everybody's on the same page, you know, we've used electromagnetic fields for years and years in healthcare for imaging. So if you go to like an MRI, you know, that's a big magnet. And so it's, you know, ionizing, non-ionizing, all this stuff comes back to pluses and minuses. It's simple math. And so if we come over here to this website, this should look really familiar to everybody. And let's just look around and see what it says. Well, your body's at least 70% water. Medical books say 68%. We know that if you're properly hydrated, then it's closer to about 75. And we can draw, and my internet's running slow today too.
Everybody's off work. They're playing on the internet today.
So we know that bottled water and tap water is not healthy, right? And we can go through reverse osmosis water doesn't have the minerals. And again, this comes back to like if you Uber filter your water, you have to put calcium back into the filter, right? So that you can get electrolysis, because those minerals have to be there for that exchange to take place. It's no different within the body. Sodium and potassium have to be there for the heart to beat. We can actually give antiarrhythmics that are, you know, like sodium bicarbonate and magnesium, and we give potassium to people. So it's really the way that Kangen water is working within the body as a supplement. It's a very simple process, and I'm not finding what I'm looking for. But Enagic themselves have cited this on their website. Whenever they're talking about Kangen water, they say that Kangen water is electrolytically reduced water, right?
Uh-huh.
So we've got distributors that will talk about Kangen water as being alkaline water, but it's not, it's alkalized water. It's electrolytically reduced, electrolyzed reduced water, and you have to have a certain amount of energy to get that process to take place. So ionizers that are not as powerful as a Kangen machine don't make the same type of water, which is why it's Kangen water, and that's why we share the water. That's the basis of the business.
Yeah.
So if we start looking at some studies that have been done, electrolyzed reduced water scavenges active oxygen species, reactive oxygen species, and protects DNA from oxidative damage, telomeres. Electrolyzed reduced water protects against oxidative damage to DNA, RNA, and protein. This is Google Scholar. The neuroprotective effects of electrolyzed reduced water in its model containing molecular hydrogen and PT nanoparticles.
What is PT?
It's got platinum nanoparticles. And then this explains everything that we've been talking about. This information is on the internet.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay.
It's only 2% of the body, yet it receives 20% of the body oxygen consumption.
So think about if somebody has a heart attack. What are the signs and symptoms of a heart attack?
The heart stops beating. It starts, what, I don't know, what, but the only thing I know, or what I would think of, is it just, your heart stops.
Numbness, tingling, nausea, dizziness, shortness of breath.
Okay.
So what's actually going on is you've got oxidative stress in the body that's led to an amyloid plaque buildup in a coronary artery, and part of that plaque breaks off and occludes that artery. That part of the heart becomes starved for oxygen, and it's no longer performing right, and so it starts to lose contractile force, and the blood is no longer being pumped. You start to lose circulation to the brain, you start to lose circulation to the tissues, and you feel it here first. Left side, arm and jaw, buddy. So now that's if you're having like traditional symptoms. There's other things. You can have occlusions in different parts of the heart. The LAD is just like the left anterior descending coronary artery is what we would refer to as the widowmaker, and that affects a certain part of the heart. It's most common. You can have different offshoots of that. But again, it comes down to you're leading a toxic lifestyle. Something within your lifestyle is causing an increase in oxidative stress, which as a result, the body is building up plaque. And then all of a sudden you've got an occlusion and you have to go in and have that cleared out, right?
Yeah.
Now,
You got a governor in there.
so I talk about what I used to teach people with the different nodes of the heart and how the heart conducts its heartbeat. You can have people who have really low amplitude, low voltage. You can have people who have, I mentioned one sentence that an electron would reverse its polarity, and you can have heartbeats that originate from the wrong area of the heart that causes a problem. In certain types of epileptic seizures, you can have what we call fast ripples. And so it's a polarity inversion. Polarity in the body is very important. And you can't be sending signals from the wrong place.
Yeah, it's so amazing, Ian. The more you think about all this stuff, the more you realize that there simply has to be intelligent design behind. It's just too perfect.
It's so cool.
It's too perfect to be something that happened because of a big bang or something like that, And I read a book called Tornado in a Junkyard, and I thought that book was really fascinating. And one of the reason he calls it Tornado in a Junkyard is he says that if you were to, he said evolution without intelligent design behind it is about as possible as a tornado ripping through a junkyard, and in its wake, it leaves behind a fully functional, fully ready to fly Boeing 747.
Right.
That's about how possible it is.
Good analogy.
You know, and I've always thought that was a really fascinating book and a fascinating analogy. And, you know, and the more I learn about the electrical components of our body and just how perfectly everything works and how resilient it is too. It's amazing how resilient our bodies are. In spite of all this crap we put into them, we're still alive. But, you know, a lot of people, they might be alive, but they're not really living.
Right.
You know, I know I have two sisters that passed away in the last year, and, you know, for the last 10 years of their lives, they were on oxygen, they were on all kinds of medications, they were barely able to move and function and that kind of thing. And so they, you know, they weren't really living, they were just alive. And I want to live. I want to help people live versus just being alive. What do you think about that whole concept? I'm assuming that's kind of the direction where you're going too, right?
Well, we're all about quality of life.
Yes. Amen.
Even with my condition especially.
Yeah, tell people about your I love that article that you wrote. I thought that was really fascinating as well. That your CRPS, is that correct? CRPS, complex regional pain syndrome. I can just imagine. I remember the thing you said in that article about, imagine you grabbed a hold of that super hot pan on the stove and you can't let go of it. I can only imagine the pain, you know, because burning yourself is the most painful thing that there is. And so I would just imagine how it's hard to comprehend having that kind of a situation going on. And
it made me acutely aware of everything that was going on in my body. And on days like today, you know, it's a really nice day. It's going to be 68 degrees here on Christmas, and that's unheard of in Arkansas. But the weather changes that take place around this time of year, between, you know, the energy and storm fronts and barometric pressure, and then just the temperature changes and everything else, it wreaks havoc on the nervous system. And so I'm not, you know, I'm what they would call in remission. I don't claim to cure anything, but most people don't have the kind of lifestyle that I have with this condition either. And so I just hang my hat on the fact that I'm very, very blessed that I understood this stuff enough to at least grab it before it got too bad, because I was not about to end up in a wheelchair. And as far as the doctors are concerned, the disease can't spread.
Wow.
It affects the autonomic nervous system, which is everywhere in the body, but oh no, it's just in your shoulder. It can't go anywhere else. So we're just going to treat your shoulder. We're not going to do anything else. And I literally got to the point where I was sitting at home and I told my wife, I think I'm dying. I wasn't absorbing food. I wasn't able to absorb nutrients. My weight was fluctuating. They had put me on Lyrica, which is a horrible, horrible drug. I hated it. And I got to the point where I couldn't even formulate sentences. I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't make the words come out. And I'm somebody who has an exceptionally high IQ and a high vocabulary. And I couldn't articulate to tell these doctors what I was experiencing. And I realized whenever I'm in the room with this pain management physician, I'm like, son of a bitch, this guy's laughing at me. He's not even trying to hide it. And we left that doctor's appointment. My wife is in tears and my hand is swollen up purple and gray. And then we got the report, the doctor's report. And he wrote on his evaluation that he didn't see anything out of the ordinary. Gave me a perfect assessment and says, oh, he showed some pictures of some swelling, but we're not convinced, basically. And so that was how I got railroaded on my medical case. And I became a pariah. I really did. Because all the people that I used to work with are in that allopathic medical world, in that system. And I became the outlier. And it caused me to look at everything differently. And what I understood was the electricity in the body.
Yeah.
It's electrical before it's chemical. Electricity is the cause, chemistry is the effect.
Wow. That is so fascinating. I'm so excited to be having the opportunity to be able to meet with you and learn and help share to people so they can get more of a grasp on just how important this is. And, you know, as far as I understand it, the best way to get that electricity that our body needs is through Kangen water. And would you agree with that assessment?
Absolutely. Water is the medium for the body's processes, the blood lipid transport, everything that happens within your body happens in the medium that is water. It makes up the majority of your body. And, you know, if we really break it down, water, H2O, and water is the best conductor on the planet. We had that conversation the other day too, and it makes sense why if you're suffering from dehydration and the body's starting to break down, you get that ammonia smell and, you know, everything dries up and doesn't work as well. Well, if you can't pass those electrical signals, then the heart's going to have to work harder to pump the blood, but heart's going to have low voltage, and so the electrical conduction system is going to get messed up, and you're going to have poor circulation. When you have poor circulation, that leads to low oxygen, what we would call hypoxia or hypoxemia in the blood. If the heart becomes where it doesn't have enough oxygen, then you have ischemia, which is lack of oxygen to the heart tissue, and ischemia turns to infarction, which is what we would call a heart attack. So you have ischemia, injury, and infarction. And when you reach the point of infarction, you lose that muscle. Well, there's studies that I can talk to you about, and I don't have time today to pull them, but trigger point science. One of the mechanisms for the development of trigger points in musculoskeletal system is acidity in the body and ischemia. So you have lack of oxygen and you have an acidic environment and you have a muscle fiber that goes and it gets stuck. And then you have a pain point. And then that leads to dysfunction because there's a principle called the all or nothing principle that says that a muscle will contract to 100% of its contractile force or not at all. So you shut down some of these muscle fibers and you get taut bands because the nervous system is trying to protect an area of the body and goes, oh, hey, joint, we've got instability. We got to shore this up because your body can recognize that proprioceptively, which is just positionally. You put your arm out, you don't have the muscle strength to support the arm at the shoulder, and the body's going to tighten those muscles down, and then all of a sudden you have frozen shoulder, right? Wow. So we have to go in and we have to look at that and figure out where the nervous system isn't sending the right signals and why the body is protecting. And then we deliver electricity to reset those signals and get the body to loosen up and perform the way that it's supposed to. And we deliver those electrical signals to speed up the body's internal healing processes. So we're not doing a whole lot. I go to some specific places, but the body does all the work.
Yeah, no wonder it's helping people the way it is. And yeah, it's so incredible that you can actually do that you could use some sort of little machine or whatever and be able to locate those kinds of things and be able to, you know, stimulate the body to be able to fix itself. And I remember the first time we met, you mentioned that you had been using this technology for quite some time, and that once you added Kangen water to the equation, that it really just took off, and things really started to work great, and you really started to see some incredible results in your patients.
Yeah. Well, and again, I should go ahead and give my traditional disclaimer that none of the information contained in this video is supposed to constitute medical advice or replace a doctor's diagnosis or opinion. The information contained in this video is for informational and educational purposes only, and you're not going to learn anything here that you can't learn basically in a 6th grade biology class. That's all we're talking about. So protons, neutrons, electrons, it's science, right? And we're not telling people how to manage their conditions. But if you look at Kangen water as the fuel, right? The body runs on H2O, but we were always told that water is water. And I'm saying water is a carrier of energy. Not only does water hydrate you, but if you're drinking the right water, then water is a carrier of energy, and it can augment those processes that you're trying to boost. And so I am in the neurohacking, biohacking profession, right? I'm a licensed professional, and so I've got training to do what I do and talk about what I talk about, but all I'm really doing is enhancing the body's performance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we say around this joint all the time, is that the magic and the miracles right here. This thing is truly amazing. And the more you learn about it, the more amazed you become with it. When you start to learn more of this stuff, and you know, it's one of my goals is always to try and learn something new every day. And just like how Kangen water has kind of helped explode the performance of what you've been able to do, it's Kangen water has exploded that ability for me to be able to get to learn something new every day.
Yeah,
not a day goes by where I don't get to learn something new from somebody out here. And so, yeah, it's such an incredible blessing, brother. I mean, what a great thing today for, you know, Christmas Eve. What a wonderful show. And, you know, this one's going to be really effective. I think I'm going to try to share this one out quite a bit with people so they can start to get a grasp of just how important this is. And, you know, go ahead.
I've got your video that I need to show, but I believe that's Mr. Nelson up there in top right-hand corner for me. How you doing, buddy? How you feeling?
Doing well, bro. Well, my knee's starting to bother me a little yesterday, but I'm going home too, so I'm kind of dreading that. I don't know. We'll see.
So overall,
it felt really good. My back felt really good. My knee it's like I say, it's pretty sore today. I don't know. Yesterday was the same thing.
So overall, when you came in 1 to 10, where were you at?
Oh, I was at hurting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was about a 7 when I came in.
Okay, and when you left, where were you at?
I was about a 3 when I left too.
How long did that last?
Till yesterday.
All right, so remind me what day you came in on.
That was Wednesday.
Sweet. Dude.
So yeah, a week.
For bone on bone, that's awesome.
Is it? Well, Tell me this, bro. Should I get an injection when I go home? Because it's really bothering me really bad today. And then when I get home, it's going to be even worse because of the air up there.
So I'll talk to you on the phone and discuss some of that paperwork that we went over and kind of how this progresses. But for like a little demo appointment and just working on the spots that we did, with those activations, that's huge. And so remember, that sets the initial window, and then we build off of that, and it gets better.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
bro. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
All right, dude.
Awesome. Yeah, it was great meeting you and your wife, brother. I so much appreciate that.
Likewise, man. Awesome.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, buddy.
That's awesome stuff, man. That is really, really fantastic that that's able to help Paul. I know that his knee's in pretty bad shape. I know it's right there with mine, if not worse. And so that's cool. That's exciting stuff. And quite frankly, I'm not surprised at all.
Well, you're tougher than I am, Jay. I know how bad yours is. I've been with you, my friend. That's called mental toughness is what that's called.
Yeah, well, so you're going back to Seattle?
Yeah, I'm flying out tomorrow afternoon.
Going home to see your mom for Christmas?
No, Mom passed 2 years ago. I got to go home and take care of a few things, and then I'll be back here.
Oh, well, safe travels, brother. Have a Merry Christmas, my friend.
Yeah, brother. Merry Christmas to you and your wife. Love you guys very much.
Yeah, we love you too, buddy. And so, yeah.
Ian and his wife are very, very good people. We're going to be in constant contact there.
Well, I'm looking forward to the day when I get to meet him. That's for sure. It's going to be
absolutely. Yeah, no, it'd be awesome. They're dear people. Just like you and your wife, my friend. I'm so happy and blessed that I met you and your wife.
Yeah, likewise, buddy. Likewise, and that's pretty much a common theme throughout the whole Kong family. They're just a bunch of really quality people in this business, and that are part of this whole big family of people. And so Ian, we'll have to talk again after Christmas, and maybe set up a schedule and whatever, whenever you'd like to do it. I'm going to be available and would love to have you on whenever you can come on and, teach us whatever it is you want to teach us. That's kind of the direction I'm thinking, if that's cool with you.
Absolutely, man.
And, let's do everything. I just want to do whatever I can to help promote what you're doing, because I think what you're doing is super important. And, the way it changed your life, I'm sure that there's a lot of lives out there that we're going to be able to change by simply introducing people to what you're doing. And so
that dude is as bright as a 1 trillion watt light bulb, dude.
Amen.
Man, yeah, he was saying some stuff to me the other day. I had no clue what he was talking about. I was just agreeing.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get talking to these scientific types. I got a couple of...
Oh my goodness, he's bright, brother. He's bright.
Well, yeah, I have two friends that are both have degrees in like biology and that kind of stuff, and chemistry, and when we get out on river trips and the two of them get around the campfire and start talking to each other, everybody else that's sitting around the fire doesn't have a clue what they're saying, but they're yammering up a storm with each other, and they know exactly what they're talking about, but everybody else is completely lost.
Yeah. I love you guys. Merry Christmas. I'm out.
All right, buddy. Safe travels. Bye for now.
Yeah.
So, Ian, is
bye-bye.
Any one last thing that you'd like to leave people with today before we get on with our days?
Absolutely. Remember the reason for the season. Merry Christmas.
Amen, kids. All right, Ian, love you, buddy. Love you so much. I appreciate everything you're doing, and look forward to us meeting again soon. And you have a Merry Christmas, you and your lovely wife. And, if I don't talk to you before then, have a Merry New Year as well. And we'll talk next year or as soon as we can, and let's get things set up and get on a schedule and get rocking and rolling. And so, yeah, make it a great one, buddy. Don't
Absolutely.
forget your hugs. Do not forget your hugs, kids. Hooty-hoo! Can't wait till I get to give you a real hug, Ian, instead of a hooty-hoo, because that's what hooty-hoo is. It's a verbal hug.
Absolutely, man. Love this celebration
All
already.
right, kids, we love you. Get out there, change the world, starting with your own. And have a Merry Christmas. Bye for now, buddy.
Merry Christmas, bro.